See the car?
No.
Yes, there he is. On the ferry. On the left-hand ferry. Go, go. Okay.
Sidney Poitier returns to the big screen after a 10-year absence in Shoot to Kill, playing an FBI man looking for a killer in the Pacific Northwest. Shoot to Kill is one of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. There was a time when Sidney Poitier was the nation's #1 box office star, but that was a long time ago, and in recent years he's been happier working behind the camera, working as a director. Shoot to Kill is his first acting assignment in 10 years, and it's a reminder of what made Poitier a star in the first place, that particular combination he has of determination, courage, and humor. In the movie, he's an FBI man on the trail of a kidnapper and murderer who is trying to escape cross-country to the Canadian border. And to do that, Poitier needs a guide, but the best guide is reluctant to take along a tenderfoot from the big city.
Ain't no elevators out there, mister. No cable cars, no buses, no damn taxi cabs. So why don't you settle your ass at the motel and I'll do what I do best.
Mr. Knox, you've got one choice, and one choice only. That is to guide me into those mountains.
That's Tom Berenger as the guide, and one of the reasons he's so eager to go after the man is that the kidnapper has joined a party of fishermen which is being led by Berenger's girlfriend, Kirstie Alley. Here she is, a guide helping to lead 4 tourists and 1 murderer across a dangerous gorge. The movie does a good job of finding humor even in the middle of this desperate situation as Poitier tries to keep up with the hard-boiled mountain man.
There's a trail for you, partner. She's taking the route to Ryan's Gorge. And horses can't make it there.
Good. If I never see another horse, if I never ride another horse, if I never smell another horse, no offense, horsey, it would be too soon. Hey.
But then the tables are turned as Poitier saves Berenger from certain death. The structure of Shoot to Kill is pretty predictable. The bad guy heads into the mountains, the good guys chase him, they argue all the way, and they face a new crisis every 5 minutes. And, of course, the FBI only sends 1 man after this murder. They don't have a manhunt or a posse like they do on the evening news. It's Poitier or else. But the relationship between Poitier and Berenger is a good one in this movie, based on understatement, humor, and an endless list of the things that can go wrong when you're climbing a mountain. This is not exactly a cinematic masterpiece that Poitier has chosen to make his return to acting in, but it is an entertaining movie, well put together. I liked it, and I liked their chemistry.
I didn't like their chemistry. I liked Poitier. There's a classic moment in here when he has to face off against a bear, and Sidney Poitier lets go and lets himself lose all of his star status and act real silly in front of the bear. I won't say anything more about that. But that was so joyful and so wonderful, and Poitier is that way through a lot of the film. Berenger, to me, was dead meat. I mean, he was nothing. He exuded no energy whatsoever, and he's not as a flamboyant a character as Poitier is going to be, but he should have been much more exciting.
Oh, I think
and then there were flaws in the film that you just pointed out that were so gaping, that were so crazy, like you're following somebody through the forest who's a killer. Well, obviously, the best thing to do is to figure out where he's going to come out roughly and wait for him, because if you're following, he can be hiding behind the bushes and nail you before you got a shot.
Well,
the movie didn't make any sense.
There are all kinds of logical flaws in the strategy that the FBI undertakes in this movie, including the fact that at the end, it turned, I don't want to give away too much, but at the end it wasn't even what happened in the mountains that even mattered anyway. So But I did feel that I think you're being a little too hard on Berenger, because he is supposed to be a mountain man. He is supposed to be
dull.
Yeah, basically has very little to say.
He played dull very well.
He plays it to himself, and this other guy has got to prove himself. That's the whole dynamic. Unless Berenger provides that as home base, Poitier can't have any fun reacting to it.
Well, let's just go back to the Defiant Ones with Tony Curtis, and Tony Curtis was a lot more exciting chained up with Poitier than Berenger is in this film. Thank you. I think I got that one. Okay, next movie.
No, I don't think you did. I have to go see the Defiant Ones. I've never seen it, so I'm not sure if you're right or wrong.
Roger will be leaving the set now to go see the Defiant Ones, and we'll continue with the next movie. A voodoo thriller set in Haiti called The Serpent and the Rainbow, about a Harvard professor who has contracted to find an herbal medicine that seems to raise the dead. I guess that's why so many people are attracted to the teaching profession. It's such an exciting job, in the movies at least. When the young anthropologist returns home from a research trip, a businessman encourages him to go to Haiti to bring back some magical powder that could make a best-selling drug.
Now, if you don't like the word zombie, you can choose another word. But the fact is, somebody brought him back from the grave. And I want to know how they did it.
In Haiti, the professor, played by Bill Pullman, meets a beautiful woman, Kathy Tyson. Remember her from Mona Lisa? She introduces him to a man who will sell him some powder, but first, Pullman wants a demonstration of its powers.
Yes.
Don't worry, that goat will live. It wouldn't be a horror film, however, if animals were the only ones involved. Naturally, the doctor and his new friend are threatened in the jungle. The Serpent and the Rainbow is a predictable movie, that predictable for sure. Zombie movies truly frightened me when I was a child. I would not watch a zombie movie. I figured they were coming in through the window any night. But they seem so contrived now, at least this one does. It's so solemn in its horror scenes that it loses any credibility and just turns into a ponderous scream machine. It was directed by Wes Craven, a cult figure among horror film fans, but he gives only a couple of interesting individual scenes, not a fresh movie here.
I thought it was a very fresh movie, and indeed one of the most authentic zombie movies I'd ever seen. It was shot on location in Haiti and in the Dominican Republic. They used a lot of actual extras, a lot of actual places.
And actual zombies.
And possibly actual zombies, I'm not sure. What it seemed interesting to me was that instead of just shooting it on the back lot with people jumping around and screaming, it got into the science and the belief of the zombie cult, and it was interesting in that point of view. Also, it looked great. It was a great-looking movie.
Well, that is a great-looking shot, but Roger, I didn't buy it for a minute. I'm thinking the last picture that got me into the occult, a little bit of Angel Heart did, and then Paul Schrader's Cat People, where I felt that they really had me believing in an extra worldliness, and this film did not communicate that to me.
Well, I don't think the point is whether or not there is another world of reality that exists here. The question is whether the actual world in Haiti of those people who do believe in it, how that works and how it works for this guy from Harvard who comes in from the outside.
It worked for me in New Orleans and Cat People. It did not work for me here.
Okay, well, a disagreement. When we come back, the new movie by John Hughes, who made all of those movies about teenagers. Now one of his couples is growing up and she's having a baby.
Here's to successful fertilization.
The movie is named She's Having a Baby, and it's the new movie by John Hughes, who has charted the emotional lives of American teenagers in a whole series of movies, including 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Hughes's characters have gradually been growing older over the years, and this time when we meet them, they've graduated from college and are getting married. And right from the first, Hughes mixes realism with fantasy and satire in this movie, as in the opening wedding scene.
Wilt thou comfort and keep her in sickness and in health? Wilt thou provide her with credit cards and a 4-bedroom, 2 1/2 bath home with central air and professional decorating? A Mercedes-Benz? 2 weeks in the Bahamas every spring? Wilt thou try to remember the little things that mean so much, like flowers on her anniversary, a kind word when she's had a rough day?
The newlyweds are played there by Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern, and before long they've settled into a suburban existence where Bacon, who has dreams of someday writing a great book but now works in an ad agency, gets restless at the neighborhood small talk.
I mean, how can you not know what kind of mower you got? You got a big Yard King 410. Remember that?
Yard King 410.
410 is for I like the old 380. You're out of your mind. The grass catcher on the 410 has a third more capacity than the 380. That alone makes it a better unit. It doesn't matter.
When the couple has trouble conceiving, Bacon tries to hide from his wife as she grows obsessed with doing everything just right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's been 48 hours since our last coition. My temperature's optimum. I'm ovulating. I have the pillow set up in the position Dr. Stanky wants us to try. You can watch TV if you get bored.
And that love scene develops into perhaps the only copulation scene I've ever seen in the movies that scored to the song Working on a Chain Gang.
Right.
I really like the underlying story in She's Having a Baby. I like the parts about the relationship and moving into a new home and the scenes of pregnancy and childbirth, the feeling of parenthood at the end. But unfortunately, those scenes were swamped in the film by all sorts of satirical and fantasy scenes that came right off the wall and distracted from the real underlying story. There's a cleverly choreographed musical ballet number, for example, that involves all the neighbors and their lawnmowers, but neither that scene nor a lot of the other fantasy scenes really add anything at all to the story. In his previous films, John Hughes has shown a real gift for showing everyday characters in believable situations, and I hope that the gimmicks in this movie are only an experiment.
Well, this is sort of interesting. I didn't care for the movie much, and actually I appreciated that he's tried to step out and take a shot at the gimmicks, which I'm sure you wouldn't quarrel with. I just thought that they went on a little bit too long. For example, you refer to the everyone out there with the lawnmowers. That's done at such a length that it becomes aggravating. In other words, I think that those quick dialogue things that we heard with the minister in the church, that was kind of exciting because it came fast and quick. And did I hear that? Which is exactly what's going on with the character's mind. The rest of the movie, to me, seemed rather predictable. These are the issues that young people deal with, and he offered, for me, he offered nothing new. McGovern was interesting. The other guy was not.
Of course, Kevin Bacon. I mean, after all, when people get married and move into a house and the woman gets pregnant and they have a baby, that's predictable in a sense. I mean, a lot of people do that. The point is it shown in an interesting way? And I felt that, for example, the moment when she's in labor in the delivery room and he's waiting and he's worried, the moments leading up to that and after that, really good, strong stuff, but needed to be in a movie that didn't suddenly, every once in a while, turn into a Fellini-esque TV commercial.
Well, obviously, we have a problem with the way the picture was put together. I just think even the original material wasn't that good.
Two thumbs down.
You got it. Coming up next, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, an erotic film about a young man trapped between two beautiful women and the invasion of his Czechoslovakian homeland. The ambitious picture with the intriguing title, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, based on Milan Kundera's novel about a brain surgeon with more than a healthy lust for beautiful women. He can't commit to any one of them or to anything else until he meets a very special woman, and together they are challenged by the Russian invasion of their native Czechoslovakia in 1968. Typical of the genuine sexy nature of the film is when Tomas, the doctor, first meets the initially shy Teresa for a physical exam at his house.
Everything looks fine.
They fall in love and eventually marry, but quickly she realizes that Tomas has other lovers. That angers her, but her anger is soon secondary to trouble in the streets of Prague. The film masterfully uses documentary footage of the Russian invasion of Prague with these characters seemingly on the scene. Even though Tomas has married Teresa, that doesn't stop him from continuing a long-standing relationship he has with another woman, a sexy woman named Sabina, who, in an exciting moment, takes a liking to Tomas's wife. Tomas's wife is a professional photographer now in search of a model. The rest of the film plays out these three lives under the oppressive totalitarian state run by the Russians as the characters grapple with issues of freedom and responsibility and love of their homeland. The film is quite successful in switching moods rapidly from matters sexual to political. And I think it holds our interest because we're not sure what choices Tomas will make and what choices either of the women will make. These are three fascinating characters who are unpredictable. The Unbearable Lightness of Being is an epic film, thus, on a human scale. It runs more than 2.5 hours, but I wasn't bored. I found it fascinating to follow some rare movie characters whose behavior I couldn't predict.
And I wasn't bored either. I thought this was a wonderful movie. It was directed by Philip Kaufman, who made The Right Stuff, and this is an epic on an altogether different plane and in a different setting, but also an epic with a lot of ideas about human nature. Now, in the early and middle 70s, there were a lot of major directors who made important films about eroticism, about sexuality.
Right.
The last major film like that I can think of was Last Tango in Paris.
1973.
That's right. This one goes on the same list. In the meantime, sexuality has often been in the movies. Either it's been suppressed, or it's been adolescent, or it's been made fun of.
Or it's the whole subject of the film.
And which isn't the point either, because these are part of their whole lives. And it's a very effective film. The lead is Daniel Day-Lewis, a British actor who was in My Beautiful Laundrette and A Room with a View, playing two wildly different characters.
Yeah.
Lena
Olin and Juliette Binoche are the two women. Three great characters, well done, well-made film.
Let's just make one more point. This is kind of on a human basis because, you know, movie critics are supposed to talk about films in kind of abstract terms. I liked looking at the sex scenes. I've got to admit this. I thought this movie was very erotic.
Oh, yes, I found it erotic, too. I mean, it's a terrific film in that way. But also, let's not mislead people. The film is quite political. It's about a man choosing between apparent freedom and fidelity to his homeland, and it's a choice that we are very much interested in seeing how he makes. When we come back, the new movie by Spike Lee, who had a big hit a couple of years ago called She's Gotta Have It. His new one takes place on a campus of an all-black university with an identity crisis. It's called School Daze.
I gotta bring a girlie back to the Gamma House tonight. He thinks I'm a virgin.
For once in his life, he's right.
Our next movie is named School Daze, and it takes place on the campus of a mythical black university named Mission College, where the student body is divided into the serious political activists on the one side and the party-minded fraternity and sorority kids on the other. The movie was directed by Spike Lee, who also plays a freshman who will do almost anything to get into the fraternity of his choice. And there's a reminder in this scene of Lee's last film, She's Gotta Have It. It's a scene where the fraternity pledge tries to talk girls into going out with him.
We could have fun, big fun. Just give me one reason why not, just one.
First of all, I don't know you from Adam. You just pop out of thin air, and I'm supposed to say yes?
I've always been attracted to you. I just couldn't tell you before. I was shy. But now that I've been pledging, I'm a different person.
Well, I'm not attracted to you.
The movie deals in a comic but pointed way with a lot of questions in the black community, including the way the co-eds choose to wear their hair. This is one of the film's best scenes, a dance sequence, a sort of a battle between students with lighter and darker complexions.
Don't you wish you had hair like this? Then the boys give you a kiss. Talk about nothing but bliss. Then you're gonna see what you missed.
There are some other serious moments, too, as a student explains why he won't join in a demonstration and risk getting thrown out of school.
I'll be the first one in my family to go to college. I mean, Dad, man, do you realize what that means? I mean, the first one ever? And all my family has always been sharecroppers since slavery.
There's no doubt in my mind, but that School Daze, in its own way, is one of the most honest and revealing movies I've ever seen about modern black life in America. It deals with complicated questions in a complicated way, dramatizing the different paths in life that blacks in America can choose, not only for their careers, but especially in the way they view themselves. And there is hardly a white person in this film. These are blacks talking to each other, relating to each other in a way that most movies don't show because they feel, I guess, that they have to be commercial and bring in some other kind of character in order to appeal to a wider audience or something. I don't know, but this is a serious film, yet at the same time it's a goofy film too, and a heavyweight scene is likely to be followed by a song and dance number right out of thin air. There are also a lot of loose ends. For example, the way the movie starts with a controversy over the school's investments in South Africa, and it ends without ever getting back to that issue or resolving it. School Daze has the feelings of a wildly ambitious movie in which Spike Lee wanted to say a whole lot of things, and he got a lot of them said. It's disorganized, it's inconsistent, but somehow it's right on target and it's never boring.
I agree with you. There are some little flaws, but boy, you know, I wrote an article, it must have been now 4 or 5 years ago, about the absence of black women in the movies, young black women in the movies. They're not there. Even when we had films about teenagers being slaughtered, none of them were black. I mean, they're totally, probably the single most discriminated group at all, young black women. When I saw the camera pass along these sorority girls, the gamma rays they're called, and they're meow, they do their own little bit and all that, I was thunderstruck at here is an image that has been absent from the movies, and he gets into the issues with black women and black men of intelligence and bright talk and bright conversation. It's just a bright film.
I felt over and over again in this movie that what Spike Lee was trying to do was make a movie that wasn't for everybody, that it was really for black people, and I enjoyed it too. I think a lot of other people would, but it wasn't a movie that tried to translate everything into acceptable terms and try to paper everything over. These were people talking to each other about what's on their mind.
And the way that he has overlapping dialogue, a bright conversation, so it sounds natural with actors who I've never heard of, and ensemble acting, a fabulous job of directing and writing. Now let's recap our reactions to the movies we reviewed on this show. We split on Shoot to Kill. Sidney Poitier was terrific, but the plot was full of holes. Roger liked it more than I did. 1 thumb up, 1 down. We split on the zombie picture, The Serpent and the Rainbow. Roger caught the mood. The film seemed hackneyed to me. 2 thumbs down, however, for She's Having a Baby, a film that fails to mix real-life drama with fantasy sequences. And 2 big thumbs up for Phil Kaufman's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, an epic on sexuality and politics. And finally, as we just said, 2 thumbs up for Spike Lee's very funny and provocative collegiate comedy called School Daze. So School Daze and The Unbearable Lightness of Being are the 2 films we recommend. 2
very good films, 2 films that step outside the mainstream and give us something different to look at for a change.
Nice way to start the year.
That's right. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back again with a special show about Robin Williams, whose new movie Good Morning Vietnam is at the top of the box office around the country right now. Williams has been in some good movies and some bad ones in his career, and we look at what he's done right this time in a special edition of Siskel and Ebert. Until then, the balcony is closed.